Welcome to another stream. Today we are doing portfolio review. If you see some lag and stuff, it's because I'm on the 4G. If you see a background movement, this is not a thief trying to rob me. It's just a friend staying over. So I know you guys are not used to that kind of activity in the background. So don't panic. I'm completely safe as far as I know. Although he's Italian, so maybe not. And we will go through some portfolios today. Some of the people will be online. I'm just checking my LinkedIn stream. There seems to be some problems on multitasking. But um, what I'm going to do for now, hey Vlad, can add people
Yeah.
really quickly, just so people that are on the stream can have an opportunity to introduce yourself a little bit. Because why not? We can make it a fun thing. Just talk a bit as well, and warm up. So why don't you guys take a round and just introduce yourself a little bit? If you have a camera, don't be afraid. Turn it on. I'm sure you guys are all beautiful and kind looking.
One
So
second, I need to take my headphones.
don't think we
Give me
have
one
any
second.
predators here on our stream. So you guys are safe. Don't you worry. Should we start with Akshay? Why don't you introduce yourself a bit?
All right. Hi. My name is Akshay. Have a background in in environment art, and I'm trying to get my hands into lighting. A few times I did a few maybe lighting challenges, and I just want to get a professional review on my portfolio to see what certain areas I should improve on.
Cool. Um, and where do you stay? Where are you from?
I'm in the U.S. In the sunshine state of Florida.
I thought you were gonna say sunset shit. This is fair.
Yeah, I was about to do. I don't know why
Sunset
I have to.
shit city. Simon, why don't you go next?
Hi, so I discovered lighting during my 3-year school as a game designer, and I how do we say, like, specialize on level building and lighting, and because I really like it during my school year. But when I finished 2 years ago, I didn't find a studio for doing lighting, so now I'm a QA tester at Focus Entertainment, but I continue to working on lighting after work. So I hope we'll have a good good feedback from you guys.
I will try my best to pretend I know what I'm doing. Sabretooth, why don't you introduce yourself a bit?
Hello, my name is Diana. I am currently a final year student at the University of Hertfordshire in the UK. I'm studying games art and design, so my specialization would be environment and lighting. Yeah, I'm currently also working as a junior 3D artist at Slipgate Ironworks Studio.
Okay, I think considering the last person just ran away, Vlad will start the session a bit, and when he comes back, he can introduce it if he wants to. Uh, there he is. Vlad, why don't you go next? Can you hear us? Vlad. Do. If I had some sign language, say Vlad V. Nope, he's busy trying to figure things out. Can't see Sabertooth Fangs. Early gamer is calling you out, Diana. Where's your fangs? All right. So I'll start sharing the screen. I only have one screen, which means it will be a bit back and forth. So don't worry about that. And if it's laggy or anything, just let me know. Cool. Cool. Double. Cool. So Simon, why don't you explain to me what kind of feedback you want?
The fact is, I made some stuff, and I really don't know if it's enough to be attractive for a professional.
Mm.
I made some I made already some tests for lighting, and people say that was cool and enough to be considered as not pro, but as how do you say that? It's enough to attract uh, people on my profile when they search someone.
Hmm.
But I'm never sure that I'll do enough or I do what people search when they want to hire someone.
Right.
And if that's clear.
Yeah. And what type of lighting artist do you want to be? Is it game, cinematic, or anything else?
Mostly for game and level, I think. And if I could be more specific, I really like indoor environment. It's easy to see. It's almost indoor stuff on my art station.
Yeah. Um. So, do you want a general feedback on your portfolio and your lighting and composition and color, or just is there something specifically you are have imposter syndrome on or comfortable with that you want me to focus on?
I think general will be great.
Okay, cool. So for this particular scene, one thing I'm noticing is this is pretty bright, but I don't see then of enough brightness in these areas. So with that, I kind of mean that when you're doing these kind of work, let's put it up, put it. Where did it go? There it is. So when I look at these things, the first thing I look for, and the first thing I look for if I'm recruiting someone is really uh, the values, if they understand value. And for juniors and students specifically, okay, let's try and see if I can use this stupid pen stuff. Let me just see if it loads. Hello, Mr. Pen. Can you load? Do I need to do something fancy to make you work? Okay, cool. Let's see if it can work. Sorry, it was working earlier. Let's see. There we go. Ha, cool. So it's very common. It's often the same type of feedback I give to most people, even during the mentorship with my actual students. So we're gonna try and be we're not obviously going to be as critical and thorough because that takes time when I do it with my students. But I'm going to be quick and kind of give you a general idea of what I want you to consider. Is of course it's a bit difficult when it's just 2D, right? But the general idea I want you to remember is it should you could make this area a little bit brighter. So let me just see if I can simplify this. Someone just came in. Let me just check what kind soul is coming in and out. Vlad is coming in and out. Okay. So what I'd like to do here is I would try and push the brightness a little bit, because it doesn't look like it. It looks like a prop light, but it doesn't push. It's not pushing anything specific. It's just there basically. So don't be afraid to kind of make it sure it's brightening up some of the areas, kind of making that it's more gradient basically. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's very subtle. You don't have to do it like super a lot either. We're talking about a very subtle amount of control over these kind of things. It's the same here. You kind of make sure it's spreading out a little bit, maybe even brightening up this detail. Of course, I'm not entirely sure which area you want me to look at because according to rule of third, if I turn this on, it's the stair in this area. So obviously you want us to look at this side over there. I'm guessing the stairs, so the ladders, correct?
Yes.
So in this case, I will also continue to not be afraid of making this even more brighter.
Yeah, I'm always very shy when I share my work with some friends. They always say, but you should be bright more some area, and I'm always I feel it's too bright or it's too strong for my eyes.
So light is obviously a lot brighter than we think, and I'll be honest with you, it's only a year ago I started getting very comfortable brightening things up. But because it's a very contrasty scene, it's a lot going on in the scene. You have to also try and remember that you need a very clear shape. You see the difference? Obviously, it should be very clear. You want to make sure it's popping a little bit. This side I will probably make darker on the left side if I think it's taking too much attention. Make sense?
Yeah.
Obviously, you have some red as well. You could play with the red as well a bit more if you wanted to. But the problem with the red when it comes to color theory is the red is prominent, which means it's very strong. So I wouldn't necessarily make it too strong, and I'll try and show you why. You just lead a little bit, and you can see it start to take the attention, right? If you were to do too much. So when I'm saying these particular things, don't copy paste it everywhere, right? I want you to understand where the focal point is, where's the story, and where you want to look at. That's basically what I want you to pay attention to. So don't say, "Oh yeah, he said bright." No, you have to understand color theory as well. I don't want you to start coloring up this because this is not going to help you at all. Make sense? It's the same with this scene, which I was kind of looking at ahead of time as well, before you got here. Let me just get rid of this thing. This one, right? So this one is also very foggy. It's pretty flat. When I say flat, it's because it's all evenly lit. Okay.
Yeah.
It's missing pop. Also, your skies, underexposed skies should be brighter. So what I did, just because it takes me a lot of time to do this stuff, so I tried to prepare some of the stuff ahead of time. So you see this? You see the difference?
Yeah.
So basically, I want you to kind of make sure that the sky is a bit brighter. You have some focal point on your light where you want it to be, and also you'll notice that I'm also adjusting the colors a bit because it's normally quite bluish when you do a lot of fog in Unity or in Unreal, doesn't really matter. And you get this blue kind of tint post-processing look because you're trying to get the blue color everywhere because it's a blue sky and you're thinking, let's go all blue. It's a very common thing, a lot of people use it. But here you can see I've been cleaning up the kind of blue, make sure that the brown color, a warm color pops a little bit and clearing it up. Make sense?
Yes.
See the difference? Okay. And it's the same principle. Any question?
No, I was agree with you. The fact I use a bit too much the blue color grading for shadow or for bright light. As you said, there was too much.
Yeah, it's less is more. Obviously, it's the same thing here. Really, the range is very long, which is fine, I suppose. But even here, I would start looking at the um, the highlights, and I would be a bit more um, risky, arguably. And I would be going, okay, what can I do to make this work better, basically? So let me see, is hotkeys working? That's the thing. Okay, and I would, wouldn't be too afraid to make these spot a little bit brighter because they should be the brightest spot. Okay, it shouldn't be the darkest spot. It should be the brightest spot. and then from there you would then kind of play around a little bit, arguably, and you will be like, okay, let's make this top a bit brighter, to make it pop maybe a little bit here, maybe the sides a little bit, maybe a little bit here, kind of details, not too much. And here, this is close by, and then you would go maybe on the shadows, so maybe you would have some more contrast some places, or maybe you want it to be a bit darker further away because you have a very high range. So you shouldn't be too afraid to play a little bit with things, and making a bit darker spot a little bit here and there to kind of make sure there's some gradient. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. It's the same principle here as well, really. It's a lot of color contrast. I do like these lines that comes to. I think that's very nifty. But you're not using it a lot. It gets lost in all of the light and detail. So I would
Yeah.
have done it. I would probably have done it creatively here or here. I would have used probably here. I would have played with the moonlight instead, and then done something similar here as well, for example, and turn off this light. Not that there's anything wrong with your ideas, but giving you just how to focus your idea.
Better.
Hmm.
Yeah. I struggle a lot to do it. And I did it on the first two, and I made the night version at the end, and I was like, no, I'm done with those small god rays.
Yeah, it's not a problem. Okay, well, let's try and skip ahead. Diana.
Hello.
So yeah, you as well. What are you trying to achieve? What role are you trying to get into? What kind of feedback do you want?
So I guess I want to be both environment artist and lighting. I don't want to specialize in only one thing. And it's usually for smaller companies that it works out best because you can do many things in a small company compared to a bigger company where you would just specialize in something smaller. Yeah, I guess I just want um, general feedback on my lighting and composition.
Okay, sure. Let's have a look. It's painting.
Because, yeah, I started learning lighting just a year ago, and it is tough when you're doing it on your own because we don't have classes for lighting, but yeah.
Nice, all right.
Yeah, trying to get help as much as I can from other
Yeah.
people.
So painting is obviously a nice skill set to start with when you're doing even this kind of work. To be honest, are you still a student?
Yeah, I'm on my final year right now.
Okay. Seems like my 4G is even getting slower. Let's have a look. I'll try to reconnect on the main internet for a bit. Actually, I don't see it. There it is. Oh wait. So this one. Let's see. I think you had some reference somewhere? Interesting. I think you have the same type of thing here. With it's very. Let me actually make my life easier. Take this away for now. Take this away. I didn't add this. Okay, fair enough. Actually, let's not do that. That's a lot of work. Let's see, copy. Just gonna add it in here for now. Do this, hide this. Cool. Now the thing with this kind of, because you have an entrance and everything. Now caves are pretty dark, generally speaking, depending on how far in you have gone and how close to a light source you are. I went to a cave just a week ago. So caves with light sources tend to be a bit brighter than what you would normally think. But again, this is why I ask you guys and girls a question: is I need to understand your intention, because there's a creative intention, but there's you trying to show you understand lighting, which is different. Okay, there's one thing to show me you understand art, artistic expression. There's one thing that where you show me your understanding of how real life works. So if I were to do it, first of all, I would push a little bit. You see how quickly it changes the image, and you don't have to do a lot. It's just a little bit you're doing to kind of deal with this. Maybe you want it to be a bit more whiter outside. That's also possible. Okay, and then if you wanted to have some drama or anything, um, you might say, okay, I actually want it to be even more darker um, in this area to kind of have a vignette effect, if you wanted to have that. What this help is kind of lead your eye a bit, but it also makes it look like a bit more curious, that you're looking into the environment and you're wondering, okay, what's in there, what's going on. Make sense?
Yeah, how would you do such an effect in Unreal 5, for example?
I would limit the. First of all, I would for volumetric fog uh, you can tell where the brightest spot starts. You can decide where it goes on the slider on the setting of the fog, so it shouldn't be too hard to get this effect. That's the first thing. Second is your indirect lighting settings. I would normally adjust them to get this little light bounce, or I would cheat and um, I would literally just add. I would add a light here, and I would be aiming it this way, for example, and I would have maybe this way, and I would have a different setting. So there's different ways of approaching these things, and that's a huge topic in its own, really. When I have my students, because we always do mentorship as well, I try and go into detail on I show how to do these things in more detail, but it's definitely not as hard as it looks like. As for this vignette effect, you can also use a post-processing volume if you're just doing a shot-based lighting, which seems to be the case with most of you. Most of you seem to be doing a more of a shot-based type of lighting and not really gameplay lighting. I would also consider, playing a little bit with the color palette to see if you can get a bit more of a interesting neutral look to it. A lot of people are just adding the color and then they accept the material on the scene, and that's about it, and they don't do really a lot more to it. So let's see, I might actually even, to be honest, depending on how comfortable you are, I will probably push it even a bit more, to be honest. And then you would tweak this a little bit. Now the question is this interesting? That's a different topic altogether. Like, is it an interesting image? Is this image providing you anything specific? That's a that's up for discussion. We can have that discussion afterwards as well to kind of understand these things. Just a quick shout out. Hey, early gamer. Hello, bibliothekar. Yes, Simon stuff I believe is in Unity, and I believe Jana stuff is in Unreal. Am I correct in that?
Yes, that's it.
Cool. So I just want to show again the difference of the training your eye. Okay, you see this and you see this, right? It's a very big difference. It has a more clarity to the image, and you could even push more brightness spreading around if you wanted to. I would probably put a character in there or something of interest. Why? Well, one of the challenges with your composition is, to me anyway, is the fact that this area in the back here, so the background, it gets a bit flat, and it's very common when you have fog and Godder right in front of the entrance. And what happens is you end up with a bright spot going down here, and obviously it's going to brighten the background because the light is going through there. So the question is, should you have done this way, and you would have a different light kind of brightening up this area very subtly? Probably I would have done that instead, to kind of create interest. I do understand your intention. In some way it's leading the direction. Or would I maybe had a bigger opening, and maybe I would have the god ray come like down here, down some stairs. Probably I would have tried that too. There's just some ideas because you said you wanted to do 3D environment as well, so therefore I would be more picky in your compositional understanding and design of the environment, which is equally important. Um, Even for a lighting artist, it's good to know that, but in your case, it's obviously more important. Make sense?
Yep, totally.
Uh, I also looked at this one, and I think it was really cool, very stylized. I liked it. There's something that did stand out a little bit, which obviously you can disagree with. This is just observation. My case is um, the light direction is coming from this way, correct?
Yep.
So for me, I think it's a bit odd that there's a strong shadow coming here. Obviously, like, I suspect it's something to do with this light, which makes it kind of pop out a little. Personally, and this is just a personal artistic, if I was the art director, basically, I would have removed this rim light and I would have focused on adding more rim light. More rim light, even more rim light here. Maybe even accentuate this a bit more. I would have avoided this side. Although it's very cool, it's very stylized. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just like it's if I see shadows and I know the light is coming from another direction, but I start seeing, there's a shadow here, here, here. It breaks the illusion a little bit, if that makes sense.
Okay,
Now,
yeah, that makes sense.
but now the question is there a light coming this way at all, and is the shadow on?
It's actually not directly from right. It's kind of behind
Mhm.
the object.
Yeah, I remember seeing you break down. So that's why I wanted to get your specific answer to that. So I would obviously make sure to avoid these kind of details for such a close-up shot, right?
Yeah.
Um, which brings us to another topic, and maybe we'll get to it eventually, which is the fact that you guys have to remember that a lot of you will enter game lighting, and when we do game lighting, we are highly particular and specific when it comes to shadow. Shadow is super expensive, so if this, I'm not saying if, so let's assume it's not the case. Maybe it's a different light. That's fine. But if the light was coming, fake lighting was for this shot, and it's not the pre-render, it's a real-time cinematic shot maybe, or maybe the player is coming nearby, you would turn off the shadow because that's a very expensive close-up shot with having all the shadow. Because first of all, it costs a lot of resources when you have god rays coming in, which is super expensive. You have blur, post-processing effect. These all cost resources, which is not something you necessarily learn when you're doing. When you're doing this kind of lighting, it's not necessarily something you get trained to understand just from learning on your own, basically. If anyone has any questions, don't feel free to ask questions in the chat. You guys can participate. I will not be offended about that. Okay, well, is that useful feedback at all?
Yeah, that's really useful. Thank you.
What happened to my? It doesn't like when I touch with my. There we go. Come on, you can do it. Move it with the pen. Move it, move it. What's the Madagascar song? Move it, move it. No, come on, boy. Cool. Other than that, depth of field also costs a lot, but this is a lot. It's expensive depth of field as well. I would probably, from a optimizing point of view, think a little bit about that. I personally probably would not have used this much. So why wouldn't I have used this much? I'll explain very easily, and you probably spotted it already. You get this fringe effect. You see this fringe effect here?
Yeah.
So I would have stopped the distance here and still had this, somewhat still sharp, but not too sharp.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be a cutout because it looks like a cutout to me anyway. Make sense?
Yeah.
So it would be like less blurred. It would be like a subtle blur. I don't know if you looked at my photography, but I'm very even when I do photography, I try and avoid this super blurred if possible. Other than that, it's for the record, it is a very cool shot, and I did look at other images. So by all means, it's cool stuff.
Thank you.
Uh, why is this being weird? I don't know why it's coupled so much. Did I lose your stuff? No. It's being awkward. Just like me. Whoa. It's doing something weird. Why is it? For some reason, it thinks I'm holding down control, which I'm not. Cool. Is that better? Yeah, that's better. Cool. Clumsy, clumsy little me. Cool. For the record, this is the other stuff she has. This would be brighter. I would probably not be afraid of making this even more brighter. I would also not be afraid of adding some other lights on the side. I like this little thing going on and a little bit there, but don't be afraid to create more shape and form. Even in the background, you could have pushed a little bit more if you wanted to. Other than that, I think it's pretty cool.
Okay. Thank you.
Just for the record, let's bro. Thank you. Paste. No. Okay. My life in a nutshell. How about a copy like this? You think that's gonna work? Oh, I don't know.
I think you had it opened in one of the other tabs in Photoshop.
That is what I thought as well.
Yeah, underneath this one.
Oh yeah, that's true. Cool. Good thing you remember. Thank you. So again, here I would not be too. I see a pattern here already. Is people are comfortable making things a bit brighter to make things pop. So let's imagine that we are badass and we like to, because first of all, you have a very stylized lighting and environment, right? Jesus fucking Christ. Oh my god, I said F word. YouTube's gonna cancel me. Let me close this because I don't think we'll need that. There you go. Here we go. So you can see already we're trying to make it a bit more, not too much. I think too much. Left it like this. No, just a little bit to get that it's starting and it's pushing out a little bit. You have a little bit at the end of your video that I remember, but you could push it a bit more and get the effect. I don't know if you did a full effect or not. I don't remember, but I wouldn't mind to see a little bit more of these things going on. Is there a reason you kept this dark on this side, by the way?
I wanted to create a bit of contrast between the top left and bottom right. But no specific reason. There is a light there, but I just didn't want it to look flat by making it brighter.
Okay. How come you picked green teal this side and reddish on this side?
It's not. I guess it's just the volumetrics of the lights. Because the moon line is a bit kind of like yellowish or I'm not even sure. I don't remember. But yeah, the turquoise mixes with that one and becomes more green. And on the right side, it's from the red light on the machine.
Yeah, that's the thing. It mixes up a bit too much. I'm just testing. I just want to look at something. What would have happened if you kept this side more red? Do you think that would have worked more? And then more teal on the other side? Maybe. I'm just testing something in my head. Um, because it mixes a lot when you have this same color, this blue and this blue. It blends in a bit too much. So with that, I mean, we can look at it from another point of view. You see, it's there's nothing wrong with this, by the way, from the point that it's very foggy and everything. So from that point of view, um, it's not anything critical. But you can see that it's all the same value, gets a bit flat, and if that's what you wanted, that's completely fine. But I wouldn't be too afraid to kind of push a little bit the contrast. And what happens when people use color is they see the color, but they forget the values to kind of make things a bit more poppy or whatever. And if you could exaggerate a little bit more if you wanted to, you could. Get a bit there. Maybe you wanted to brighten this area. I wouldn't do it too much though, but I am a bit unsure about your color choices. I just want to play a bit, see if I can. Yeah, the red is kind of because that's the thing with the. What I like to do is I show what happens with the because this information is there even though you don't see it in your render. The color already exists in your renders because it's already red. Um, so I don't know what kind of color palette you were thinking originally, but I would have tried going maybe a little bit uh, greenish, darkish, dirty looking, kind of more vomity type of look, just because it's broken. There's hope coming afterwards, and not blending this blue stuff too much because of your angle. But I like it. I mean, there's nothing necessarily wrong with what you're doing. So let's have a quick comparison. It's a very subtle changes, but it helps with your with a focal point. Now again, the question is it a good focal point as a single image? That's a different topic, right? Because we can't. I know it's a video. Um, there was something I noticed with the video, is timing wise. If you also want to know one thing in your video, this is a different video. Yes, I did watch everything and go through everything before the session. So editing wise, because you are doing other stuff than lighting, it's very slow. But you can see here on the bottom, it starts with it insinuates the sunset, right? Or it's getting
Yeah.
darker basically, and then it jumps to dark. Now that's not, to me, that's not the best shot cut. Because it just suddenly is dark, right? Even though I understand that's what you're trying to do, I would probably have pushed it a little bit longer, a little bit more, have a more mid sunset version in between to kind of help with the things.
Yeah, I had a limitation of 30 seconds max for that video, and I guess I just wanted to show too much in those 30 seconds.
You have other feedback as well on the chat. And hey, Karim, you don't have a video, but I'll add you to the stream. Remember to mute yourself in case you have background noises. Okay, was that helpful at all, Diana?
Yeah, it was. Thank you so much.
We'll take a second run eventually after I gone through a little bit. Karim, you there?
Yes, I'm sure. I'm here. Can you hear
Bro,
me?
I can. Um, bro, why did you submit your portfolio? You're pretty good already. Are you?
Um, I just need a general review about my portfolio. Uh, just to know if I'm doing something wrong or not, if
Right.
I'm in the right direction totally.
First
And
question: Are you planning
okay,
to be a level artist, a lighting artist, or are you doing both?
I'm doing both.
You're both doing both.
Yeah.
And is there any weaknesses you think you have?
Um, I'm not sure about it, but I maybe there is something I don't know, so I don't know it's a weakness already. So I have to have just a highlight about it to know this is a weakness. I should improve. This is good. I should keep on it, and so on.
So the first thing I noticed is you have too many stuff on your portfolio.
Hmm. Yeah,
Uh, I would probably get rid of all of these. I would probably get rid of this, maybe this one. Uh, this one looks familiar.
yeah.
Have you
This.
have you posted this for feedback or something?
No, I don't think so.
I think someone else did something similar. Get rid of all of this. Probably this. This one is very bright. Is this nighttime?
Yeah, it should be.
Okay. At least for now, I would say without clicking too much. Probably this one as well. I would limit your portfolio. Is basically what I'm trying to say. And if you want to spend time later, we can go through a bit more thoroughly what I think should be removed. Because what happens here when you have multiple things, there's certain people that I know they just post a lot of stuff. The problem is if I scroll down and I am looking for new people to join and I
Hmm.
see some old stuff, I'm like, okay, do you know why this is good, why this is bad? Do you know why this is different than this? That it just gives me more ammunition to ask you questions that you might not know how to answer, and it puts you in a difficult situation. Make sense?
Yeah, that totally makes
So
sense.
you want to eliminate portfolio that's bad. Um, and when I say bad, I mean obviously you have improved since then. So obviously I don't see the point in keeping it around. To be honest. Just don't delete it. You can keep it hidden, and then if you have, I don't know, job interviews or whatever, you can then go in and say, hey, this is how it was before. Now, the question I haven't asked anyone just yet is, do you know why you did something, and do you know how you did something? So let's look at some of your work. You did this for the challenge, I believe.
Yeah, for better light never challenge.
I looked at your reference. Right. Let me scroll down instead. Actually, let's click here. So this was your reference,
Yeah, exactly.
correct? And
Yeah.
what were you trying to do when you looked at this concept?
Um, I tried first to get the same composition with assets I have from Quix and Megascan, and then trying to match the lighting mode to get. I first converted this image into grayscale, so I did know where is the focal points, a basic understanding of the composition. So I started to work based on that grayscale image and try to achieve something similar.
Okay. So, uh, how close do you think you got?
Uh, okay, yeah, maybe 70%.
Because you have a lot of work, so I'm gonna give you a different. I'm gonna use a different approach to give you feedback. Ba-ba-dum-dum-dum. gonna. It's okay. We can bring it a little bit up. Okay. So I'm gonna click like this, and you're gonna tell me what you could have done better.
Hmm.
I'm gonna let you tell me with your eyes.
Maybe playing with some colors, like this green color, to get it more in contrast, and maybe some playing with some assets to get a better visuals for these assets to match the concept. And for the lighting mode itself, for the main color, um, I think it's pretty close. Not exact the exact same color, but I had it more cooler color than the reference, and I think yeah, it's pretty much it. Maybe the reference has some highlights in the concept in the background.
Okay. So to my eyes, you obviously have a bit too much blue color.
Hmm.
You can see this one is closer because it has more green in it. Okay.
Okay.
Second, your this area is um, very bright. You have put the light and like covering a lot of distance, lot of area. So if you analyze your reference, you see it's not really doing that. It's very particular. It's very pinpointed. These light sources, they're really just they're really just there.
Hmm.
But if you look at yours, you can see everything a bit clearly, and it's pretty bright. Make sense?
Yeah.
So in your case, and I am being extra picky with you because I think you deserve to have extra pickiness done to you. You're already pretty good, so I think it's more important that you um, get this type of pickiness. I really need to get used to this. Um, so let's see. I wanna burn and I wanna do the highlights. Let's see if it will let me do that. So I would probably, not make it super bright everywhere. Most likely, I will probably darken it a bit up. Obviously, I'm doing a very poor job, but you'll get the point with my not so very impressive Photoshop skills. Okay, so you see, we're more closer to the reference. Obviously, you are more zoomed in first of all,
Hmm.
because of composition, and this one is further away. This one is much closer. So I don't know how picky you want it to be, but this one could have gone further back if you wanted to be true to your reference anyway. That's just that's the point here. This one is actually much further away than it looks like, which is very common. I was in a road trip with a friend, and he kept telling me, "Hey, let's stop the car. Let's go up this cliff rather than finding the actual walkway that human made to go up there. So we can do it. We can do it." As a dude, that's a lot further than it looks like. So we didn't do it, but we went the other way, and it took 5 hours and 50 minutes to get up to the peak up here in North Yorkshire. And he was like, okay, you were right. It looks a lot further than it seems like. And it's the case with this very good concept drawing here is this quite far away. You can see the size, and the purpose is to give scale. So if you're going to do two things as well as Diana, I'm going to be more picky in your understanding of scale, because our art director would be picking on this as well. He will be going, okay, you know, listen, the scale is not correct. It should be further away. It should be more tiny. The light should be a double lighting. I call them. It's like little dots of lighting. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Do you agree or do you disagree? You are allowed to disagree, of course.
I totally agree with you.
Okay. Uh, Furthermore, your lighting. This is why I like references, because then I can really be picky on helping with the eye training. I'm not gonna be as picky, but it's too much. So in your reference, you can see that it's actually quite bright in here and here, and it doesn't go all the way to the left. It's actually darker on this particular side here. Where is it? So here you will see it's actually getting a bit more darker. If he wants to listen, it will go darker. I don't know if it's actually doing it or not. There we go. Okay. So it's a bit darker. You can see it's, you know, it's going into the shadows here. The focal point is obviously this area. I'm not going to be too picky. I mean, there's a lot I could be picky on in terms of your composition and choice of placement. I don't know how picky you want to be, but just for the record, if you want it to be very true to your reference, there's a bridge that goes here, for example, right? Again, this is the camera angle. This is cinematography now, framing, when you took the screenshot.
Mhm.
You see, it's not the
Yeah.
same. It's if you had gone on a higher level, little bit up, tilting down, you would have gotten maybe closer to the true intention of what you wanted. Okay, you can see the waterfall. You can see the rim light on the rocks. You could have pushed that as well. So yeah, I don't want to be too picky, because obviously this is great work by all means. I'm not saying it's bad work at all, but I just wanted to, you know, give you an idea of how different it could also look. But in your case, my impression of what you have done, and you can correct me if it's wrong. My eye is going there because you maybe wanted it to go there, but the thing is, if you talk about shape language, they cannot do because the layer is hidden, blah blah blah. So in terms of shape language, does it mean when I'm saying shape language? I'm saying it's very bright and it lacks gradient. So I see this with my eyes when I look at it. Okay,
Yeah.
but here I don't see this, because pay attention to how the painting is done. The light is there and it's very brief. It's not the brightest one. You
Mhm.
know, it's creating that, okay, it's very distant. The light is inside the building. But if you look at yours, it's like on top of it, if that makes sense. It's like, where's the light coming from? And you don't really see the light source. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's right.
Uh, the painting definitely has more greenish, yellowish. You can see here, you can see here. It has a more of a green color overtone to it. So it would have been more towards this direction. I don't know. I've painted the red line the wrong place, unfortunately. Yeah, so this is a quick feedback. Of course, it's all about looking at you, understanding the values and the painting. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Hopefully that was useful.
yeah, it was really Thank you.
Same thing here. Do you want me to give you realistic feedback, or did you try to do something else?
Um, I prefer to go with realistic feedback.
Okay, let me just check my phone. 30 minutes away. Okay, let me know. 15 minutes next. Okay, so I'm gonna be quick. You wouldn't get this hotspot in real life, would you? Or would you?
Yeah. Okay.
Right? So what does that mean? In real life, if you turn on the light, these are designed to be omni lights. Normally, it's not a spotlight. If it is a spotlight, it wouldn't. Normally, we wouldn't put it in this type of light fixture. The light prop is a light fixture. I don't know if it's a vocabulary you guys are aware of, but when I say light fixture, that's what I'm saying. Um, hold on, let me just make sure we interact with the people. Okay, Clement, I know the source. Okay, cool. I don't want to check the private chat because you're on one screen, and the purpose of private chat is it's supposed to be private. So you see what I did there very quickly, just making sure the light actually bouncing around the room, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it looks better because again, it's the choice of light. It's a combination of warm light and bright light outside. Normally speaking, with this bright light outside, it's clipping. First of all, do you know? I'm gonna guess you know what white clipping, but in case you don't know, white clipping is when you lose the details of these objects, right? So this is white clipping. This is white clipping, meaning it's losing its shape. It's becoming flat. Make sense?
Yeah.
And that's basically what's happening there. And normally that's related to exposure, right? So the problem with the white clipping, the same as photography, is we avoid this overexposing. What we do is we expose for the sky in photography, and then we increase the exposure afterwards to get what we want with the scene. Because now, if you would do anything, you're gonna have some trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But with this window and what you have already going, this is how it would have looked like. Okay,
Okay.
so let's look at the comparison. See the difference?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I think it's correct. First of all, that's a different topic altogether. This orange light wouldn't be this bright. It should be the brightest spot, but it seems like it's still daylight outside. I'm assuming, or no?
Yeah. It should be some kind of overcast lighting, but yeah, at day time.
So this little thing here um, would in fact be a lot darker, really. And to be honest, generally speaking, this would also actually be a lot darker when it's like this kind of stuff outside. And what I would have done if I was doing it is like realistically speaking, mind you, it's kind of hard to do this here though. I would be pushing this light coming in instead, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So it would be a blue, white light, whatever. Make sense?
Yeah.
Agree or disagree?
Yeah. I totally agree.
Okay. Um, quick feedback on so same principle here. Um, yeah, composition, bright light here, bright light there, bright light there. Compositionally is also something we all need to work with. But basically, what I'm seeing here is goes this way. This line, direction light, is telling me to look here, but this one is the brightest light. Make sense?
Yeah.
So when we do as an artist, we have to focus on the composition, color, and all these things. These are all not necessarily uh, on the level that I know you can do because I've seen some of your other work, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You have this one as well.
Yeah, this is our, yeah, that's it. This is the latest project I worked on.
So I see this is what you looked at, but this is what you ended with. Explain to me what happened or what your intention was.
Okay, at first I liked the composition of the painting itself, but I tried to go with a different note, maybe something which is overcast and a have a bluish tint and monochromatic at the same time.
Cool. Uh, I don't really have a lot of problem with this. I just wanted to tell you it looks cool. This one is that lens effect you have going.
Yeah, this one added by DaVinci Resolve.
Okay. So I'm not gonna take too much time because I want to make sure I don't forget anyone else as well. But my quick feedback for this one, in this case, it's kind of the same feedback as everything else. It's like color, tone, composition. Play with the colors sometimes to get like a bit more of a fantasy look, warmer look, because it's kind of warmer and everything. So I would have gone for this look, just artistic taste really. Um, it has a more of a warmer feel light around the environment when you do that. Second thing, again, personal thing, I don't like this little thing here.
Hmm.
Do you know why?
No, actually.
Compositionally, my eye is telling me look this way. So
Okay.
what I would have done is skip it, but I would have moved this over there, so it says look towards the character compositionally. Make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Again, it's always subtle advice, my opinion, obviously, um, and my thought process of it. There are obviously a lot of other things like the fog and the intensity of things in the sky. I would probably have made brighter and such and forth. But yeah, hopefully that was
Okay.
useful.
Yeah, it was very good and helpful feedback.
How about the stream? As I see it, at least there's some people watching, and I know there's more people watching somewhere else, but I can't actually look at it. Um, hopefully, leave a comment if you guys are liking it. If not, well, that's too bad. Akshay,
Yep.
what's up?
Ah, good. How are you?
I'm good. Mm, 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 mm. So, what are you trying to do?
Just give be really out there because I just know I want to know more about how my lighting and my composition is in my portfolio. Just give it me straight. I I guess I really do need it, especially when I'm learning. So
I have a sharp memory.
um
Did you stay true to this reference?
um I just grab a few images to try to get me a feel of what I wanted and try to replicate that in my artwork. There's not like a really centralized reference I was going for. I was looking at, so I was just maybe basically like picking and blend things together.
Cool. So, the thing with referencing is, I think it's good with referencing, but also if you go, I guess in your case, this is more of an inspiration more than anything. Um, would not be correct to assume.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I did this for like a lighting challenge where the problem was about dread, and so I was trying to find references on that and try to replicate it enough to convey that feeling in my work.
So based on the fact of your references, I'm going to point out that it should be a little more desaturated based on your references anyway. It's more towards about 18, 19%, a bit more desaturated. Look, just looking at the colors alone. Um, and I'm only pointing it out just so I am sure that your color understandings are on the same page, really. Um, I think it's a creative piece. It's an interesting camera angle as well. But the problem with fog, which I point out with my students a lot, is fog flattens the image. When you have a top-down, up-down shot as well, which is kind of what you have. You have this angle going up, kind of, trying to have this more dramatic look to it, I suppose. Um, I think it kind of works. There's certain things I would have avoided. Things I would personally have avoided is probably tangent stuff. I suppose I think it's called is things coming into the image like these. I try and have them more in, so you see a bit more or not at all. If I can only see a branch, I think it's a bit distracting sometimes, but it's not a big deal really. It's just being a little bit particular in this case. Um, So looking at this, I don't know if you want me to be very picky, but obviously this red light wouldn't go this way. I think it's interesting, but again, if you took a thing about rule of third, you have it over here, but you have this one also on rule of third. You have this one on rule of third, and you have this one on rule of third. Not that I necessarily follow them too blindly, but I'm pointing it out because I would probably have made sure that this was more lit using this light instead, to be honest, personally anyway. And the reason is because the light is coming from that way, and it's supposed to be like some interesting light, kind of filling up your screen, I suppose. um, Not really utilizing it, because there's a conflict compositionally and lighting wise. So what is the composition and conflict for my according to me? One, you have a little bit strong light, and you have some God rays, a type of fog going on, and it's kind of telling me, hey, look at this,
Mm.
okay? Because there is a story going on, but it's not necessarily the story you intended, which is he's coming out. There's a red rock is disconnected. Is he the one who pushed it all the way out? And then this red light over there, and for some reason it hits this. But then you have clear, foggy but very clear light still, even though it's foggy. You still have this light coming out, which is fine. But it's also weird because then I would expect this blue light to be other places, but instead I see very selective lighting, which kind of breaks the image, so to speak. For me, it's very difficult to understand because there's a couple of things to work here. um, so for me, um, does it make it a poor piece? No, of course not. Not at all. But you know either you would have gone a bit stronger here, right, and you would have gone maybe a little bit darker in this one. But the problem with the type of lighting you've done, it makes it a bit harder, so it's not going to look good. So I apologize for that. Or you would have gone, a bit brighter and kind of have the light coming in. But then again, here's the problem. You have a bright light, you have bright light. This is red. You have a leading light. This thing over there is also bright, but it's not really in front. First of all, as far as I can tell. So this one is this in front? Is this on the side? Can you tell me?
It's more like behind it a bit. It's like behind the structure.
Yeah. So that's not a good thing in this case, because if this one is behind, which we already see, these would be lit. This would have had some blue light, rim light to create some shape because it's kind of flat
Okay.
right now. You would have done maybe even more rim light on the hair, probably a little bit here. You would have pushed it because that's the real light that covers the whole environment. Versus this red light is a very particular origin, so it shouldn't be lighting everything. So my issue, and again, this is my opinion, you didn't use the light everywhere where I would have used the light, basically, if that makes sense. I don't know
Hmm.
if that makes sense. So, for example, I would have tried. Now I know why it was being so difficult. So I would probably have tried to maybe, kind of. It's too much. I'm being a bit quick here, but just, have this there and maybe some, some light over there. Maybe even have this area some light over there. So, but this red light is coming all the way over here, right? So it's kind of, there's a unrealistic separation between your composition, color choice, and where the light hits. I don't know if I'm clear enough or not.
Mm.
I like the idea. I think the idea is very cool. But I would have
Yeah.
liked to see more light hitting everywhere. It's
Yeah.
very particular range of everything, and it's the not necessarily. I would probably have made this like just red around here, and then I would have used this light to kind of fill in the right spots as needed, because then you would have gotten a bit of a dramatic effect. Uh, or I would have skipped it actually as well. I
Hmm.
suppose, to be honest, I would have probably had the light come from this side instead. I would probably have gone a completely different direction, being me. For leading light purposes, I would probably have gone, okay, this is the main light here. I want this to be super artistic and boom, it's just silhouette. So it makes sense why it's silhouette, because it's very bright
Hmm.
behind it, and there has to be some brightness behind it to get that kind of effect, supposedly, right? And then maybe I would have tried figuring out it wouldn't work in this case, but I would have tried maybe, what's happening? I'm losing battery or something. Hold on. Oh, my battery. Everything is running on battery these days. Does this help? No. Okay. So I would probably have, maybe thought a little bit about brightening.
Mm.
Makes sense? I'm not going to spend too much
Yeah.
time. I think
Yeah.
I'm proving the point. Um, Agree, disagree?
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. If I had a better little more time, because this was like 4 week challenge, and if I had I could have like maybe changed it up a bit more to make it more dramatic. But yeah, I see what you're getting at.
The composition here is not really good. You're looking up, the characters is barely visible.
Mm.
This one is super bright, so guess where I'm looking?
Yeah.
Tell me, where am I looking?
All the way at the right, where like the brightest spot is.
And that's not what you wanted, right?
No, I wouldn't. No.
So these are the things I think is very important to be aware of when we're looking at all of these different things. Um, Hopefully that's useful.
Hmm.
Cool. Let's try and keep moving forward. Let's see. Okay. Boom, chaka, chaka, boom, boom, boom. Lad, I'm gonna do a very quick one for you as well.
Hey, thank you very much. I will appreciate it. Can you hear
No
me?
problem. Yes, no problem.
Oh,
Uh, so this scene, I see you purposely made it more reflective.
actually, that floor was reflective. I haven't changed anything on the floor.
So
Very well.
funny, this is the environment my students use to learn how to correct materials because this is not set up correctly. So you kept the original material. Um, that's not really how materials work. So
Mhm.
an environment like this isn't metal everywhere. Even if you look at the texture, they are incorrect, which I teach in my course in this environment, how you go in and correct it. The metal is only supposed to be certain areas, first of all, right? This is metal. Uh, this is supposed to be metal. You don't
Mm.
really want it to be this metal and reflective. Now, what's the number one reason I don't think you should have all this reflectiveness? Can you guess?
I'm thinking you'll get too much light in the scene. You'll get the flatness at some point.
So if you ever work in a well any game anyway, you're gonna if it's too reflective, you depend on the reflective probes to make some light because reflectiveness doesn't bounce as much as it does white surface. So not only is it reflective, it's dark, so there's very little light going on. It's really just reflection. Okay, we can see here the light is hitting here. It doesn't actually hit here. This is just reflection. You can see here it's less reflected here, so the light is hitting here. You can see the same thing going on here. So reflectiveness is very important to be very considerate about. It's better to have less reflectiveness and more roughness to get the lighting up and running and bouncing around. So this is also from a game point of view, optimization super expensive because you're paying a reflection cost generally speaking, when you have it everywhere. Make sense?
Yep.
How did you end up with green, blue, orange, and I think
And
there's
a bit
another
of
color on
yellow
the
in the
left side.
background. There's a bit of yellow in the background as well, in the far away. Well, from color theory, I think it's pleasing to the eye to have these colors. They are friendly, first of all.
And it's just supposed to be a friendly place.
Well, it's an exploration place. We don't know yet. We need to go to the other room to see. So
So
far,
as a lighting artist, we also have to look at the environment. So this has a broken door. So now I'm being very picky on purpose, just so everyone can get the context here. This has a broken door. It's snowing in. If I assign you this level as an art director, do you think I would want it to look friendly, or do you think I would want it to be abandoned or scary or something? Not that you're doing anything wrong, but stereotypically, what do you think I would have
yeah,
asked you to do?
I know what you mean. It's a discrepancy between colors, the theme of the colors, and the environment itself.
Also, this one is super bright. This one is just there. Normally, this should have been bright as well, or just off in generally, personally speaking, anyway. Um, it's not really a good idea. Let me look at your. Because you used this as a reference, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm more to pick the mood and color palette.
Hmm. So I want you to look at how it's very, bright areas are very specific. They go fade, and then there's darkness, and there's little light, and then there's more darkness, and there's hotspot of white light here. Look at how diffuse the color is. Also look at, the reflection is very specific to very specific areas. If you wanted to copy that, you don't necessarily see a lot there. It's also more white on purpose because it will bounce a little bit anyway if it's not 100% reflective. So it's all it's within gray, white kind of range. It's not totally black basically, and it's hotspot of lighting. um, so why am I picking this out? Because here everything is very bright. This one is also very It's a very clean render. I have to say it's a very clean render. But in terms of color, personally speaking, I would be picking less color, and not too many colors. Why? We call it the Christmas tree effect in the lighting community, when we give this critique. So why is it called the Christmas tree effect? Because you have blue, green, orange. You start having the color palette of a Christmas tree. Make sense?
Yeah.
And I recommend keeping maybe one or two primary colors, and I would have picked probably that sunlight a bit more. Sometimes this looks okay and good. Don't get me wrong, but I think you could have done even better job in reducing the color palette a little bit, understanding where the brightest spots want to be. So I'm gonna ask you a little bit about that as well. Um, where would you want the brightest spot to be of all these light sources you have going on?
Well, considering that I want let's say the player to explore the place, I want something coming from the left side and a bit on the center where the light is, where the light fixture is. Those would
Okay.
be the brightest spots. So some rays coming from the left and center between the generators, let's call them.
Okay. And so here's the thing with I don't know if you have. When is the last time you've been and looked at the sunset? Actually, let's just look at your reference. Do you see
Much,
this is much brighter than your version?
yeah, it is much brighter. Yeah.
It should be more towards this direction, even more actually. But this is what I had time to do before the stream started. But I also would maybe not have it all this brightness everywhere. I would be making it a bit darker some places, probably have a more neutral color in the beginning, um, and kind of focus on getting the values correct. So I would be darkening some areas after making it brighter. So I would be making this maybe darker, this darker, maybe this bit brighter. Probably not too much reflection. It's a bit too much. And the reason I think it's too much is because when you look at your images, it reflects everywhere and it takes a lot of attention away from what you maybe want to show. Here you
Mhm.
can see it's very difficult. It flattens the image. It. I have very trouble. It's also because you picked a wide lens, obviously, but it's also very difficult is how far this is apart, but where this ends. But that's the job of a lighting artist. We want to make sure things are, a clear shape, clear form, contrast. I don't have a big problem here, but I would have liked maybe some brightness here would have been cool. I think it would have worked well if you were doing this kind of stuff. So, for example, in this example, maybe you would have gone and say, okay, listen, we need to have um, some variance. So, what's the most brightest? It's a decision you would have to make. But because you already have very bright emissive light, and I don't want to spend too much time editing, I would have gone like this. Okay.
Mhm.
Now you have a very clear focal point, right? You don't necessarily have a focal point here. Do you see the difference?
Yeah.
Okay. It's the same here as well. There's a light here, there's light there, or it's dark, it's the same value. It doesn't really matter what value you pick, which is also what I want to explain to everyone. It doesn't matter if I brighten and darken the image. If your base value is already very all over the place, it's going to look the same whether you brighten or darken. And in my course, we teach about exposure based on EV and realistic lighting. So I would have first asked you to make sure this is balanced, and then we will use a curve and different settings to kind of control the camera. So if you're in one part of the room, it will brighten. If you're outside, it will even out. If you're in the corridor, it will do something else. So you stay with one lighting and you don't have to tweak a lot. So that's some of the things we do in my course as well, um, which is what we do in this area obviously as well. Um, so here it's the same thing with having some brightness, having some darkness, taking charge of your reflection a little bit. Does that make sense at all?
Yep. Yes.
Because here I would have turned on the blue even, and I would maybe have this warm light come in. That's a different choice again. But having a lot of bright spot everywhere and not having the wall bright enough is a discrepancy, and that's where the balance between emissiveness and the bright sources comes in, right? Um, so
Mm-hmm.
again, overall, I think it's a very clean render though. I think it's a clean render in the sense that it's reflective. In a way, it's cool, but it's just very dark. It's not the easiest scene to light, first of all, because the materials are dark. It's set up wrong and everything. I think this one is more closer because it's already dark here. But again, you have some reflection. You can see the reflection here. The question is, do you want it? Don't you want it? So yeah, overall, I think it's a good progress, um, and I think hopefully the reflection is useful for you. The
Yes.
feedback is useful. I'm not going to go to the other stuff because this is your best so far. So I would focus on this one. Okay,
Yep. That's really appreciated. Thank you very much.
no problem. We'll take a new run very quickly later as well. I think it's a good idea for people to give each other some feedback and see if you agree and disagree because there's a learning curve there as well. Um, who's is this one again? This one is for. Okay, is it yours? Is it yours? I think it's yours. Yeah, I believe it's Siddesh. I don't think he's here, is he? Siddesh is not around. Okay. Um, cool. I'm gonna skip him for now, actually. Uh, leaving Daniel. Is Daniel here? No. I think I'm just gonna skip him a little bit for now. Save it for next time. Did I get everyone else who was supposed to get some feedback? Or did I miss anyone? I think I didn't miss anyone, right? Of the people who are actually available. Okay, cool. Any question of those of you who are still on the stream?
No, thank you for the feedback of my work. I really needed it.
So Daniel, I see you're on on the chat. Let me see if my guest is on the way. It's probably. Let me see. Um, Daniel. Daniel, I'll save yours for next time because I've been going on now for I don't know over 1.5 hours anyway. Um, so I'll save it for next time if that's all right for you. But a quick feedback um, anyway. Let me just do a quick one for you so you have a general idea of what I'm picking on. I thought the smoke was a bit too much because it's kind of you have a well in front and you have smoke behind. Again, it's about composition. Your what it does is flattens the image even more. You have a windmill in the back, you have a windmill here. It's also because you're using a wide lens, which makes it even more flat, which it does in real life as well. It's the same here. You have a lot of, I guess you want us to look here, but you have to ask yourself, is this interesting, or would you rather have us looking here? Because this is taking the attention, it's the brightest spot basically. So you would have probably pushed the light here. I would have maybe had less fire and not hide whatever is going behind there and make it less smoky, probably, personally. These two are very identical. It's a subtle color change, but more or less it's more identical. So I would probably not have kept both of them there. Your color is very saturated, which is fine, but you can also play a little bit with the color. It's all over the place in terms of what I say. The screen is very similar, and what it happens, it flattens your image because you are using a bit of fog. You have smoke effect, which is very expensive. I don't know if you were gonna get away with this much effect, so that's a different thing as well to keep in mind. In terms of a normal game production setting, this is a very expensive scene. Let's see, 15 minutes. It's very evenly bright, everything. Again, here you would have probably, I would have considered you here, clipboard. So for me personally, in this example, I would have not have it all bright everywhere probably. I would have maybe darken it a little bit, some areas, you know, make it a bit dark. And this side, probably. I like that it's already dark, so I will probably push that a little bit more. Actually, I wouldn't, because it's closer to the light source, which is why I'm picking on this side a bit more. It makes more sense to kind of go darker on this side, and then it goes more sense to me anyway. Brighten this a little bit up, and then actually spread it out a little bit. You guys are very afraid of. So do you have split lighting here? It doesn't make sense. Why doesn't it make sense to me? It's just how real light works. I don't see the light source, but this one is really bright and it still reaches its face. There's some difference in color. This one is right next to it, and for some reason is darker on this side, and it's dark here and so on. So there's some discrepancy for me when it comes to understanding how light works, the distance, the placement of the light, the composition of everything. So I would definitely have considered working on it. I would probably there's always so many different advice to give, isn't it? So let's take it with a grain of salt. At this case, I would probably have, considering I don't see any light source, I would probably have gone more dramatic. Probably, you know, really just, I don't know, dark on this side, dramatic, and then gone a bit more brighter on this side, I suppose, something like this. Again, it's a very quick paint over because I have to go as well. Makes sense. I have to look at the chat for this. Cool. You're still there. Hopefully, you're still there, Daniel, because obviously this is for you. Okay. You submitted this for the challenge. Let's gonna look at the video. It's again, there's a lot of light everywhere. Don't be afraid to do some changes with this. I don't know why people are afraid of this. Again, here I would have maybe even try playing with things. You can see by the graph. Okay, like so. And then I would have gone probably focal point. I would probably make this the focal point. So that means I would have tried making this brighter. Okay, and then I would probably do some changes with your color choice. Like this. And then I will probably desaturate the look a little bit because it's supposed to be a bit more dramatic, so you get a more realistic look like this. Okay. So for comparison, before, after. Okay. To me, this looks better. You don't have to agree, but that's my opinion so far. And yeah, so general feedback, it's really the same thing everywhere here. Either you have too dark or you're too flat in your lighting, according to me anyway. But I do like this, but this is super bright, and but other than that, it's pretty cool. I would probably have gone a little bit fun. I would have had a little bit more comfortable fun here as well. And I'm being very quick with you. Hopefully, it's still helpful. I'm doing more, but quicker for you. I'm using the mouse at this stage. It's a bit too much. Don't be afraid to have this kind of bleed out a little bit. It's always a little bit fun to kind of have some detail subtly available. Okay, it's not too much. It's just a little bit because you have stuff going on. And don't be afraid to consider doing this brighter, because it's Moon Night. I would have done that too, probably. Cool. Okay. I think that's everyone online, right? Cool. Hopefully that's useful, and hopefully people learned a little bit from that. And thanks for tuning in. Leave a like, leave a subscription if you haven't already. And as usual, for those who are new to the channel, we do have a mentorship, so have a look
If
at
that
that.
was useful, you should head over to courses.lightingbot.com and consider some of the courses and mentorship. You'll be able to learn all of these things: fundamental of lighting, incorrect materials, exposure, EV, how to use volumetric, how to deal with light bidding, how to do post-process grading, emissive, how to do fill light and extra lighting, different times of day, how you do it differently for each day using EV, how to go away from the EV and technical lighting to do artistic lighting, understanding curves, analyzing painting, how it affects your art and lighting, how to train your eye and how to learn from painting, candle principle, Purkinje effect, game optimization, the danger of fog that a lot of people don't understand, and lots more. Again, we have had people go through the course and get work. We have some testimonial you can check. Little bit about myself, my co-author Sander, who has been going through the content and improving the content as well. He's a technical lighting artist, so more technical than myself. And you can check all the content that's being added on a regular basis, fundamental stuff, advanced stuff, technical stuff, and we're still adding new content because when students join, they have an ability to ask for some learning. Basically, you can also upgrade to monthly mentorship. You get some extra stuff for discount price, and you have me and other mentors. If you upgrade to 5 months, you can have an opportunity to get some career roadmaps or different offers. If you want a very specific offer, just talk to me and I'll schedule something specific for you as well. Okay, a great opportunity to learn.
All right, so that was today's stream. We went through most of the feedback. I'll try and make some shorter videos afterwards when I have time in the future. I have another visitor coming, so I have to end the stream. But thank you again for your support. Please like and subscribe. Leave a positive comment for people to find this video. I hope it's been useful for you, and hopefully you can continue to improve your lighting. Thank you so much, and have a good weekend. Bye.